In unserer dritten Keynote Bridging Digital and Physical beschäftigt sich Marcello Ienca mit der imminenten Bedeutung der Schnittstellen zwischen Digital World und Physical Interfaces. Er bringt uns die aktuellsten Entwicklungen, wie digitale Systeme direkt mit menschlicher Kognition verbunden werden können und welche Chancen für Unternehmen sich daraus ergeben. Er zeigt auch auf, wie diese Entwicklungen mit europäischen Werten und Standards in Einklang gebracht werden können und wie daraus ein Wettbewerbsvorteil für die europäische Wirtschaft generiert werden kann.
Imagine a world where your thoughts and emotions are no longer confined to the silence of your mind, but can flow directly into machines. A world where the digital and the physical are connected by the most intimate bridge of all, the human brain. I call this the hybrid mind. In this world lives Maria. After a severe stroke, she lost most of her motor control. Today, she is walking again thanks to a robotic exoskeleton that she operates directly with her brain. Artificial intelligence translates the faint whispers of her neural activity into precise physical movement. A thought that becomes action, and action that becomes thought. The digital becomes physical, and the physical becomes digital. In the same world lives Philip. He spends hours on a new social media app called TalkTick. This app does not rely only on clicks and swipes, it reads his brain activity through earbuds. It knows when fried chicken sparks craving, when a travel ad generates anticipation, and when his favorite politician speaks, triggering approval. From these neural signatures, the company builds a psychographic profile that predicts what Philip will want before he is aware of it himself. And it uses that profile to nudge his behavior. Maria and Philip are not real people. Yet. They are conceptual devices, but the future they embody are real and incredibly near. They show us what it means when humans and machines enter into the most intimate connection of all, a direct interface between the brain and the digital world. This interaction is bidirectional. On one side, AI helps us understand and augment the brain. This is the field of AI-powered brain technology. And on the other side, the brain inspires us to understand and augment AI. This is called neuromorphic computing, where biological principles shape the design of more efficient, brain-like AI systems. How is such brain-machine connection technically possible? Through what we call a brain-computer interface, or BCI. A BCI establishes a direct communication pathway between neural processes and external computing devices, like computer cursors or robotic limbs. The cycle works as follows. First, electrodes acquire the brain's electrical activity, sensing rhythmic electrical whispers from neurons. And then these electrical recordings are then amplified so that faint signals can be measured. In the next step, called feature extraction, specific patterns are isolated that correspond to meaningful information, such as the intention to move in a certain direction. And these features are then subject to classification, a computational process in which AI determines what the signal represents, say again, the intention to move in a certain direction. Now, the crucial point is, brains and machines do not speak the same language. Therefore, we need a translator, and that translator is artificial intelligence. AI renders neural signals interpretable to machines and machine signals interpretable to the brain. For businesses and industries, this translational layer from brain signal to actionable output is precisely where digital and physical worlds meet. It is also where new markets, new risks, and new regulatory landscapes will emerge. BCIs originated as a clinical technology, and they are thriving. At EPFL in Switzerland, researchers created a brain-to-spine interface that allowed a person with paralysis to take steps again, just like Lazarus in the Bible. Brain signals are decoded, transmitted to the spinal cord, and translated into motor commands. Hope becomes gait, intention becomes weight-bearing. In parallel, brain-to-speech interfaces are allowing patients with aphasia, so people who have lost the ability to produce audible speech, to talk again, by using a brain control speech synthesizer that converts intended sentences into audible words and phrases in real time. Brain-machine interaction does not stop at research prototypes. A technique called deep brain stimulation, once considered experimental, is now a near-routine medical treatment for people with Parkinson's disease. Electrodes implanted deep in the brainstem modulate pathological activity and restore motor function, dramatically reducing tremors and rigidity. More than 200,000 patients worldwide have already received DBS implants, and the global market is valued at several $billion annually. What was once cutting edge is now standard therapy. This shows a broader trend. BCIs are reshaping medical technology. They are creating entirely new categories of devices that are part neurobiology, part electronics, part artificial intelligence. For companies, this opens opportunities in medical device manufacturing, clinical data services, rehabilitation technologies, and beyond. For patients, it offers a path to restored autonomy and dignity. But history also shows that what begins as medical innovation rarely stays within medicine. Pacemakers moved into fitness wearables, imaging technologies migrated into consumer cameras. And in the same way, BCIs are already crossing into schools, workplaces, entertainment, and personal homes. That is where additional opportunities for consulting, IT, finance, insurance, and communication industries will emerge. But also additional risks. Companies in the data economy are recognizing that the brain itself is the richest side of data extraction, because it reveals not only what we do, but what we may be about to do. Big tech companies have patented the integration of brain sensing technology in everyday digital accessories like earbuds. Other companies have developed wearable devices that monitor concentration levels, and such headsets have already been tested in classrooms. The promise is to improve focus and learning. Yet, the risk is the emergence of cognitive surveillance, where fluctuations of attention and emotion are continuously monitored and evaluated. For HR, consulting, education services, or insurance, this could mean access to entirely new categories of data. But it also raises profound ethical and legal responsibilities that every company must anticipate. These trends are not surprising. The entire data economy has always been a competitive arms race toward the human mind, especially intention and affect. But if traditional digital ecosystems were built on the extraction of personal data from our digital traces, BCIs go further by targeting the neural substrates of thought and affect and decision-making themselves. In this ecosystem, brain activity becomes both a commodity and a predictive resource. Neural correlates of preferences, memory, or emotional responses can be harvested, aggregated, and sold, offering corporations and states unprecedented access to the intimate drivers of human behavior. I call this neurocapitalism. And what distinguishes this from earlier stages of the digital economy is not only its predictive power, but its ontological depth. Neurocapitalism penetrates beneath behavior into the biological substrates of thought and emotions themselves. For SMEs in consulting, IT, advertising, financial services, and communication, this shift will directly affect how value is created, how risks are managed, and how regulation evolves. History offers a useful analogy. In the 1980s, computing became personal. The computer became the PC. So machine left the mainframe and entered the home. The 2020s may be the PC moment of brain-machine technology. Devices are becoming smaller, cheaper, and powered by artificial intelligence models with unprecedented capabilities. What was once the preserve of hospitals and laboratories could soon become part of everyday life. Researchers are already reconstructing images from brain activity using diffusion models, the same technology that powers generative AI image synthesis software. Other labs are decoding continuous speech from brain data with the help of large language models, the same technology that powers ChatGPT. Early BCIs of this type produce a few words per minute, but now researchers can achieve about 80 words per minute, which is similar to normal verbal conversation. As models scale from millions to trillions of parameters, their decoding power scales with them. This is not science fiction. It is a rapid trajectory of progress. And for businesses, it means the boundary between digital and physical, between cognition and computation, is blurry. Europe has a unique role here. It is the world leader in independent, university-based BCI research. Breakthroughs in Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, and other European countries have defined and shaped the field of brain-machine technology. But industrial leadership is concentrated elsewhere. Companies like Neuralink, with global visibility, are headquartered overseas, in the United States in this case. So Europe risks repeating with brain technology what already happened with classic AI, remaining the leader in regulation while the United States and China dominate innovation and commercialization. We should not make that mistake again. Europe must not only set the ethical standards, it must also translate its research excellence into industrial leadership and responsible innovation. What does this mean for industry? It means both promise and peril. The promise is clear. Entirely new markets, products, and services that blend digital and physical in unprecedented ways. But the peril is equally clear. Brain data is the most intimate data possible. If abused, it can lead to neurodiscrimination, manipulation, even the erosion of trust and of freedom itself. This is why my colleagues and I have proposed so-called neuro rights, fundamental rights for the protection of the brain and mind. They include cognitive liberty, which is the right to control one's own mental processes. Mental privacy, which is the protection against unwanted access to brain data. Mental integrity, which safeguards against harm, such as hacking or manipulation. And psychological continuity, which is the preservation of identity and selfhood even as our minds merge with artificial intelligence. These rights are no longer abstract philosophy. They are entering global governance frameworks. The United Nations, for example, has passed resolutions acknowledging the human rights impacts of brain technology. UNESCO appointed an expert group, of which I have the privilege of being a member, drafting the first global recommendation on the ethics of neurotechnology. The OECD has published a recommendation on responsible innovation in neurotechnology, which provided the first international standard and a clear baseline for transparency, safety, inclusiveness, and accountability. And last but not least, the Council of Europe is preparing new guidelines on brain technologies, human rights, and data protection, which will help policymakers and courts implement legally binding standards in this space. For SMEs, the key point is this. Aligning with these frameworks is not just compliance, it is competitive advantage. Compliance will mean embedding transparency in how brain data is collected and used, ensuring explicit consent and clear purpose limitation, building security by design and privacy-preserving technologies into neurotech devices and platforms, and demonstrating accountability through audits and ethical impact assessments. Firms that do this early will not only avoid regulatory risk, but also differentiate themselves in markets where trust is decisive. Ethical design builds trust with clients, patients, employees, and consumers. In competitive environments, trust is not a constraint, it is an asset. So, we stand at a crossroads. Neurotechnology is advancing quickly, the digital ecosystem is evolving at the same speed, and how it is developed and deployed will shape not only markets but societies. The choice before us should not be only between blind optimism and dystopian fear. We must avoid both extremes: anti-technology panic, which stifles progress and innovation, and laissez-faire deregulation, which risks exploitation, manipulation, and inequality. The way forward is through responsible innovation. That means fostering technologies that serve people, that respect rights, that build trust. It means embedding ethics and safety into the design process so that new interfaces between brains and machines enhance human freedom and human agency rather than eroding them. Here, Europe has a historic opportunity. Our continent is already a world leader in independent, university-based BCI research, as well as in the study of its ethical and social impacts. But Europe must also lead in turning that knowledge into responsible innovation, offering a human-centered alternative to the techno-centered model of Silicon Valley, which often undermines equality, and to the government-centered model of China, which risks turning technology into a tool of authoritarian control. The goal should not be saying no to innovation, but saying yes to a different kind of innovation, one rooted in European values of dignity, human rights, democracy, and solidarity. A model where technology is not only powerful, but also fair, trustworthy, and aligned with human flourishing. Philosopher René Descartes wrote, "Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am." But if our freedom to think vanishes, then we vanish too. So we must ask what happens when thinking itself is networked, mined, and rewritten. Do we still exist in the same way, or are we becoming something else entirely? These are not only scientific or legal questions, they are strategic questions for every company and ultimately every citizen in Austria, Europe, and anywhere in the world. They are questions about the infrastructure of future markets, the ethics of future products, and the trust of future clients. The future of technology will not be determined by panic or paralysis. It will be determined by curiosity, vigilance, and wisdom. And for companies that integrate these values, the reward is not just innovation, but leadership.